Where is Ethel Nabul? Ethel's a rock star. She's a Lyme rock star. She is a Lyme disease activist, just 18 years of age. She's a student at Trent University. She's studying a joint major in forensic sciences and psychology in the hopes of getting into tick-borne disease research. And we couldn't be more happy to have you. Ethel Nabul.
We grow up believing that when we are ill, we can always turn to a doctor for help. That a doctor will always be there for us to figure out what it is that's going on and guide us back to our former state of health. At least, that's what I thought. My story is a lot like every Lyme disease story you hear, was finally diagnosed after years of searching for answers. The only thing that differentiates mine is how I found out about what Lyme disease was. I had been undergoing a lot of tests when I walked past a girl in my high school in a wheelchair. I had remembered her from the day before because I would sit and watch the gymnastics team and she had been dancing the previous day. So out of concern, I asked her what had happened. She told me that she had Lyme disease, but I had never heard of Lyme disease, so I decided to look it up. I also read through every Facebook article she'd post, and after reading, I couldn't believe that something so serious had such little awareness. I asked her if she wanted to start a walk to raise awareness for Lyme disease in our community, so we started Lyme Walk Niagara, along with 2 of her other friends who are also battling the disease. I spent my grade 12 year handing out lime green ribbons at school every day, handing out posters, bringing limes to school so I could have my schoolmates take part in the Take a Bite Out of a Lime challenge as a way of raising awareness and advertising the walk. In a newspaper article that was posted about the walk, they quoted me saying, "Lyme disease, it's real. It's out there, and people need to know about it." Little did I know that by people, I was also referring to myself. Not only was I educating those around me, but I was also educating myself. At that point, my pain had gotten so severe. My pain first started in my right knee, but every scan showed that my knee was okay. And then it was both knees, and every scan still came back clear. And then it was both knees, both ankles, both wrists, both shoulders, my back, my neck, my jaw, my fingers, and every blood test, bone scan, CAT scan, MRI, X-ray came back clear that there was nothing wrong with me. My memory was fading at a very high pace. I could not sit or stand for long. Pain, numbness, tingling sensations throughout my body. I was anxious, sad, and angry all the time. My grades had declined. I was tested for MS, sickle cell, arthritis, lupus, and the list goes on, and every doctor I saw had absolutely no answer for me. I was told that it was all in my head and that I was just stressed out. And because of my athletic background, a rheumatologist told me that it was all in my head and and my body was probably going through withdrawal from not exercising as much as I used to. When a doctor cannot give you a medical answer, there's only one thing you can do. Believe that maybe you really are crazy and making it up. But I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. After the walk, Kamea and her parents said the very words that changed my life. Have they at least ruled out Lyme disease? And that's when it all began. But of course, when I brought it up to my pediatrician, he said, "There's no way you could have Lyme disease," only to find out a few months later from another doctor that I did. All this time, all these years, something that could have been caught early was caught too late. I've been undergoing treatment for almost 2 years now. We first started treating naturally, and then we sought antibiotic treatment. I am still on the journey of regaining my health. This is the story of many of us, left untreated and undiagnosed for years. We seek treatment and answers. This is the story of many of us, left Oh. This is the story of many of us, left untreated and undiagnosed for years. We seek specialist after specialist, looking for answers and treatment, only to have the door shut in front of us before we even enter. We spend all our days not only fighting for our health, but fighting our governments and medical system, only to have our voices turned on mute the second we say the four-letter word, Lyme. And they try to quiet us down by publishing a framework that's not even set to be reviewed for another 5 years, but we will not stay quiet. My heart breaks for the thousands, if not millions, in this very... My heart breaks for the thousands, if not millions, in this very country that not only have Lyme disease, but are still undiagnosed and misdiagnosed while their health only continues to deteriorate every second, without answers and left without hope. They are turned away by their family practitioners and their local hospitals, being told that they're crazy and that it is all in their heads, and that all they need to do is drink a little more water and do some yoga. As if water and yoga are going to cure a spirochete infection that was left untreated for over 3 years, giving it time to replicate, switch its antigens, hide in biofilm, lay dormant, and attack the body multisystemically. As if water and yoga will restore the mobility and function in those who have lost their ability to walk, speak, or even think. As if water and yoga will bring back the thousands who have died due to complications after being denied adequate treatment. Back in November of 2016, my new family doctor retested me for Lyme disease for his own reassurance. It has been over 5 months, and my Lyme disease blood results have still not been released from Public Health Canada. They still say pending every time I have an appointment with him. He even mentioned that he had another patient whose Lyme disease blood results they're still chasing after. If my test was negative, it would have been back way before of Christmas of 2016 like they were supposed to. It is now June 3rd, 2017, and my Lyme disease blood results are still being held by Public Health Canada. Now, of course, I don't mind. They can hold my results for as long as they want because I have already been tested, diagnosed, and undergoing treatment by another practitioner. So I don't care about myself. But I have spoken to a few people, and apparently this isn't uncommon in our country. This has happened to so many others. And you know what? Actually, a big part of me does care. I care for the person who was just bitten by a tick and had their whole life ahead of them. I care for that person who went to get a single blood test that could have led to them possibly getting an early diagnosis and a higher chance of effective treatment, only to have their blood results held for over 5 months. 5 months. That is enough time for the bacteria. I'm talking more than just Borrelia burgdorferi. Ticks carry so many different infections. That is enough time to turn an illness that could have been acute, chronic. How can they hold results for over 5 months? Everyone knows that Lyme disease is easier to treat if caught early, but how is that possible if our Lyme disease blood results are being held for over 5 months? And it doesn't help that the ELISA blood test is known to miss about 50% of positive cases. How can a government allow something so inhumane to take place? We have to travel outside of our country to seek treatment not covered by insurance with the hopes of getting our lives back. Doctors here cannot treat us if our illness persists without jeopardizing or losing their licenses. If we were faking being sick, who in their right mind would sell their house, their car, and use up every last dime on treatment, all for the act of pretending to be sick? My best friend, Riley Johnson, lost her ability to walk for almost 2 years. The CDC states that all it takes is 1 month of doxycycline or amoxicillin to cure Lyme disease. We all know that's not true. 1 month of doxycycline is not enough to eradicate a disease so severe, smart, and multisystemic as Lyme disease, especially after being left untreated for so long. 1 month of doxycycline did not give my best friend, Riley Johnson, her ability to walk again. Over a month of doxycycline in combination with other antibiotics gave my best friend, Riley Johnson, her ability to walk again. If you are still looking for answers, don't give up without a fight. You are the only one that can truly feel what your body is going through, and what you feel is real. It is so real. To those fighting for change, you can't give up ever. We can't just let them win. I know it's hard and it feels like change will never happen, and we may lose hope every other day, but we must not stay quiet. Because with climate change on the rise, Canadian scientists are saying that by the year 2020, that's 3 years from now, and let me remind you that the framework is not set to be reviewed for another 5 years. By the year 2020, 80% of Eastern Canada is going to be tick infected. And if they're not listening to us, not changing the treatment guidelines, we have to make them listen. Because the generation that's at the highest risk is the next one. My future children, your future grandchildren. I am fighting now so that the future generation doesn't have to. Now I leave you with a quote from one of my favorite documentaries, Under Our Skin. We may be patient, but we are not patient anymore.
That works. So thank you for inviting me here. I can't tell you, and I'm saying this absolutely sincerely, I am honored to be here. I'm really sorry that we all have to be here, but this is the way things are going to change. A bunch of people getting together, looking after each other, and we're not going to stop till the situation gets better. Okay. So, let's talk about this framework thing. Like everyone else, last Tuesday I spent feeling like I'd been kicked in the gut and then depressed. And then the thought that we were stuck with this insipid self-congratulatory document for the next 5 years was profoundly depressing. But hey, yes, it was better than the draft. When the draft came out, I sent them a very polite little letter saying, there are some problems here. Let's count the errors of science, 10 of them. Let's count the statements that are simply incorrect, 12 of them. How about statements that are meaningful, 10 of them. Oh, and by the way, there was a typo. So the final, I counted up the errors of science. Well, those 10 are still there. The errors of fact, they got rid of one of them, excellent. But don't worry, they did correct the typo. All right, so let's talk about science. I'm a scientist. For those who don't know me, I'm cheerfully known as a tick hunter. I started doing that about 5 years ago. My lab was a cancer lab. Then I was engaging in a high-risk activity called gardening. Got a tick on my shoulder, but that's okay. There's no Lyme disease in New Brunswick. Got a bullseye rash. Don't worry, you're just allergic to it. A few months later, couldn't move my body. That's a problem. But don't worry, you have MS, or perhaps you have ALS. And then the infectious disease doc looked me in the eye and very sympathetically said, have you made a will? Fortunately, antibiotics looked after that problem. I found a practitioner brave enough to actually treat me, and as he blandly puts it, I treat patients then I get better. Sadly, that practitioner is no longer practicing in Canada. That's my story. Let's go back to science. Let's look at the framework. Let's start with sentence 1. Sentence 1. Well, the problem with sentence 1 is that it's, incorrect. It tells us that Lyme disease is caused by Borrelia burgdorferi. Yeah, that's a nasty little bacteria that'll cause Lyme disease. If you go to Europe, you'll get infected by a different Borrelia species. It'll still cause Lyme disease, but that doesn't count. So, all those Canadians who go to Europe, get infected there, they have Lyme disease, but the moment you come back to Canada, you don't have Lyme disease anymore. That is an amazing cure. And of course, ticks travel too. So the European ticks hitch a ride on birds. They can hitch a ride on deer, not across the ocean, but up from the States. Ticks travel, so we can get other Borrelia infections here, and they're just not counted. All right, so much for sentence 1. That was wrong. Guess where I'm going next? Sentence 2, excellent! Sentence 2 tells us that there are 2 tick vectors that give you Lyme disease. Well, we've got the Lyme disease vector in the east and the Lyme disease vector in the west. How very symmetrical. Well, the problem with that is that that is also incorrect. So we could go through the framework sentence by sentence, but we don't have all day, so I'm not going to do that. But I am going to tell you a little bit about ticks. Why? Partly because I was told to talk about science, but it's okay, it's not a lecture, it's only a little bit. And the reason I'm doing this is to emphasize that real science, real biology doesn't fit in a box. Okay, so here's the demo bit. You're walking in your garden. This is interpretive dance. I am a tick. I'm sitting on a piece of grass. I'm trying to get ya. So now you enjoyed that little bit of interpretive dance. I was busy being a tick. You could have told, right? Yeah? Just imagine another whole bunch of limbs. So I'm hanging out on a piece of grass, I'm waving my front limbs in the air, and I'm trying to grab you. I grab you. And then I'm going to walk really, really slowly along your body. Why am I walking so slowly? Because if I skittered along quickly, you'd notice and brush me off. Ticks are lethargic beasts. You're not going to feel them walking on you. And then eventually they'll walk around until they find a place that's nice and dark and moist. Look down at your body, you can figure that one out too. And then, yes, this is the interpretive bit. They are going to stick their mouth parts into you. Also known as tick drags, but I'm improvising. So the middle bit is like a straw. It goes straight into you. And it's going to be used to spit in some of its saliva and suck out your blood. The bits on either side are like harpoons. They've got little spines on them to stop you from pushing the tick out. Now you would think that you would notice, except the tick very thoughtfully spits in some anesthetic so you don't notice it. And then it spits in an immune suppressant so you don't get any swelling. That incidentally is really bad for you. And then it's going to very comfortably suck your blood for days and days and days. And if that's not revolting enough, your blood is mostly made up of water. So it's going to spit that water back into you. So you're not only lunch, you are the tick's sewer. Okay, how many people are feeling revolted? Good, you should be. Now, why did I tell you that? Well, so what? It turns out that when ticks have sex, and it occurs to me this is probably the only time tick sex has ever been discussed on Parliament Hill. When ticks have sex, they're basically doing the same thing as feeding. So the male goes to find a female and he shoves his mouth parts into her and he drools for a while. I probably won't go into this. That would be the censor. Okay. Not quite done. We're done. Okay, so the male is shoving his mouth parts into the female just as if he was feeding from her, and he drools into her for a while just as if he was feeding, and then eventually he does the sperm thing. That's okay. Now here's the interesting thing. For ticks, having sex and feeding is almost the same activity. So there are two aspects of this that are worrying. One is that if you ever find a tick on you, that means that that tick is actually trying to have sex with you. That, I'm sure, has made no one feel any happier. The other is that if you have something like the blackleg tick that's a non-specific feeder, it's going to be non-specific in its choice of mating pattern. Okay, the end of the science here. It turns out that in the forests of Canada, there is wild and crazy tick sex happening all the time. What does this matter? Well, okay, so a bunch of scientists who have nothing better to do with their time are worried about this, but what it means is that the ticks are transferring DNA from one tick species to another. So when we talk about two tick species that are a problem, that's nonsense. The ticks don't read the literature. They have not read the framework. Good for them. They're doing whatever they want to do, and they are not fitting inside the box. And that's typical of the science in the framework. Now, I could keep going about the deficiencies of the framework. There are problems with the surveillance. There were problems with the ethics. The real problem is that it didn't have the patient voice in there. And the reason it's important for us to be heard, us as the people who know more about Lyme than anyone else because we're living Lyme, is because we're a very science literate community. I am always blown away by how science literate this community is. The people reaching out to me saying, I'm doing this science. The people who are doing tick drags in their neighborhood. We're doing the science that needs to be done. Okay, and the other problem is that unless you've got the patient voice in there, we're going to be dealing, basically what's done with this framework, what that $4 million is going to be doing is it'll be stuck in the old boys network, it'll be stuck with the people who brought us to this place in the first place, and they're going to be doing science that's irrelevant. How many people are worried about whether there are other other vectors out there that can give you Lyme disease? So that didn't show up in the framework. How many people are worried about sexual transmission? That didn't show up. How many people are worried about congenital transmission? How many people are worried about how safe our blood supply is? This is why they need us. Now, the challenge is going to be getting the people who don't want to listen. And they're going to have to do that. Now, I'm going to be a bit militant here and quote a slightly belligerent military phrase, which is, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Apparently belligerence is the way to go. The scientific version of that is incrementally more polite. It's lead, follow, or become utterly irrelevant. At this point, public health has shown very clearly that they're not going to lead. The Association of Infectious Disease Docs have shown very clearly they're not going to lead. So far, they're not doing a great job of following either. Well, that leaves one fate. They're going to be irrelevant. And in fact, they're going to get increasingly irrelevant. Right now, the science that they're not doing is already happening. East part of the country, New Brunswick, you know, the country that's sort of just between here and there be dragons province. We've set up a Lyme disease research network. It's an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary network of people, researchers who care. There's a huge number of us saying, we're putting Lyme disease front and center. We're not part of this $4 million. We're just doing the work because it needs to be done. It's being supported by the Canadian Lyme Disease Foundation, so thank you to them. And thank you to all of you who are supporting science. Other things that are happening. For the research we're doing, which is not true of every Lyme research initiative in the country. Every project we do is put out to the patient community. There's something called the Patient Research Advisory Panel. I wanted to call it the Patient Advisory Panel, but then it would be called the PAP test. So I was overruled. Although there are a number of infectious disease docs I would like to subject to a PAP test. Anyway, we have PRAP, the Patient Research Advisory Panel. Every project we do is examined by a volunteer group of people from the Lyme disease community, patients, caregivers, medical professionals. You join, there's no obligation. If you're interested in this, going to the Canadian Lyme Science Alliance and just register yourself for the PRAP test. We send out short descriptions of the research. You send back your comments, good idea, bad idea, have you thought about this? This is you could do this, you could do that. We think about them, we send back our comments. So that way we're asking the Lyme community to help us be relevant, help us be important, suggest what's important to you. Thank you. A couple more things. We're setting up a site which unfortunately they let me name, so it's going to be called Tickopedia, because my sense of humor is, I'm frequently told, inappropriate, but I haven't been able to control it. I blame it on Lyme. Tickopedia is essentially, if you want to be doing tick drags and find out what's happening in your neighborhood, in your backyard, in the playgrounds where your kids go to school, where your grandkids go to school, in the parks where you like to go walking, don't wait for public health to do it. Build a tick drag, start collecting ticks. By all means, tuck your pants into your socks. You look geeky, but hey, make a fashion statement. And start collecting data, find out what is happening in your neighborhood. And I'm happy to test any ticks you find for Lyme disease. So what I'm going to end with is, what we're doing here is, yeah, we're picking up the slack for public health. That's really unfortunate. We'd like to have their resources, we'd love to have their money, but in the end, we're doing what needs to be done. We're looking after each other, and we're doing good science in the process of doing it. So thank you, and I'm honored to be a part of this group.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Vocal Ottawa, and before I begin, I would like to thank Leslie Fleming and her team for giving us this opportunity, and even more so, she is the only person in Canada who would allow me to speak. And for that, I am grateful. Even my partner, when he took me to the airport yesterday morning, I said, why are you coming so early? He said, I want to see you off because I'm not sure I'll ever see you again. I also want to thank Rose Lazar and her daughter for letting me bunk in with them, Michelle for driving me. And lest you think I'm not committed, I have left Winnipeg during our 3 days of summer. It was plus 33, plus 34, and today is going back to plus 33. And when I get back, it drops to plus 16. Now that's commitment. My name is Elizabeth Rogers, and I have chronic Lyme disease. I don't have Lyme-like symptoms. I don't have idiopathic Lyme. I don't have anything else. I have chronic Lyme. And I want to tell you what I personally think of those who would tell me I do not have chronic Lyme. For those who say chronic Lyme doesn't exist, there are 4 possibilities why a person might hold this view. Number 1, they are as dumb as a bag of rocks. Number 2, they are character disordered with excessively rigid thinking and perfect, impenetrable circular logic. which is basically they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Number 3, they're corrupt. Number 4, they're sociopaths. So I would ask of AMMI, Todd Heschet, Carolyn Quach, Daniel Gregory, Robin Lindsay, Morshed MBC, David Patrick, and the well-known Bill Bowie. Which of these 4 categories do you fit in? I'm not afraid to go to jail, actually. You know, I'm 71 years old. What are they going to do? Haul me off and throw me in jail? I've already got people who've committed to bail and a box of wine. So where can I go wrong? I'll tell you one damn thing that's sure is there isn't one of them at AMMI or TAM at PHAC or the author of Stephen, I've forgotten his last name, at PHAC, of the framework. There isn't one of them who are truly a clinician. They're Petri dish watchers. They've never seen a patient. They have no idea. They would call me expendable. I got news. They're despicable. And I can just as easily make a movie out of them as they can out of me. Quite frankly, I'm sick of being sick. I'm sick of the pain, I'm sick of the nausea, I'm sick of the tiredness, I'm sick of the exhaustion, and I can speak louder than that. I am absolutely sick to death of doctors who display their ignorance and their arrogance on a daily basis when it comes to lying. And what's more, I'm sick to death of being their teacher and protector. When did it become okay for me to do all the research, for me to do the diagnosis, for me to go in and say, this is what I need for treatment, and for me to fill out his forms? When did it become okay for me to be the doctor? It's not okay. And how pathetic is it? Think about this. How pathetic is it when we hear people with Lyme say, I'm so grateful for the crumbs they gave us. Screw that, I'm not grateful. I'm not happy. They gave me nothing. I've got 8 years, and I could drop dead tomorrow from this disease, which they probably wouldn't shed a lot of tears over. I hate it when people say, I'm so grateful my doctor listened to me. What do you think his job is? He's supposed to listen. And they say, well, they're scared of losing their license. Well, if that's the case, then band together and grow some balls and go to the college and tell them people are dying here and you took an oath to do no harm. We've got 14 doctors in Kelowna or Kamloops who've walked out of the hospital banded together because they're angry. They don't want to have to use the new computer system. They can do it. Well, as a patient in a supposed patient-centered medical system, if given a choice, if they ask me, I'd say forget the computer system, walk out and demand on being able to treat me because I deserve it. And not only that, I pay for you when you walk out. Aside from being sick of the disease in the medical system, I'm also sick of being told what I can say and what I can't say. God forbid the government, PHAC or AMMI might call me a Lyme loony. Well, I got news for you. I've been called a lot worse by people I like a lot more. So calling me names doesn't matter, and neither should it matter to you. To that I say loudly and very vocally, I don't care what you call me. The fact of the matter is, I will never be dismissed. I'm not stupid. I'm not afraid. I'm here, and I'm going to stay here, and nothing you can call me is going to make a difference to that. What they are doing is schoolyard bullying tactics, and they want you to be afraid. Well, I'm here to tell you, do not be afraid. The fact of the matter is, we, you, me, are on the right side of the issue. They're wrong, we're right. End of. Now let me talk to you about respect. Let me say one thing about respect. If you want my respect, earn it. I'm not giving you respect for handing me out a few crumbs. I'm not giving you respect because you stand up and say, we care, we're meeting. I'm not giving you respect that you haven't earned. I respect you as a person until I do not respect you as a person until I see you doing something. And the first way to get my respect is to do something. Don't talk about it. Don't say I understand. Don't say I'll agree to see you and do nothing. Do something about it. Until then, you will never get my respect. I can remember a year ago when the conference was announced and I questioned whether we really needed a conference. And the reason I questioned it was, why did we have to legislate a conference over this disease? If they really gave a damn, why wouldn't they just ask us? But they didn't. And in the end, you and I both know it was nothing more than placating. All of this, everything you're getting now, today, tomorrow, and in the future, is placating. We were played and led to believe if we played nice in the sandbox, we could have a seat at the grown-up lime table. So imagine our surprise when we all played nice, came into the ledge, and discovered there was no seat because there never was a table. We were lied to. In any case, against my better judgment, I went to the framework. Did you notice how we all spoke and told our stories the night before the conference actually began? Did you all notice we were put in 4 separate rooms? God forbid we should all be in one room. They knew better. And if you think I'm wrong, think again. At the conference the next morning, what's the first thing the moderator said to you? Be hard on the issues and soft on the people. Now, I don't know how many conferences you've gone to, but I've gone to hundreds, and I have never heard a moderator stand up front and say to me, who I'm supposed to be there to give my input, to tell me how I can do it. We were, in fact, being muzzled. And guess what? The problem with being soft on the people is the people are the issue. When Bill Bowie, who, by the way, is past his buy-sell date, when he sits there and when asked the question, what is the definition of the case definition for Lyme? And he goes, I don't know. Nobody jumped up. Why? Because we're polite, we're respectful, we'll take the crumbs. Well, no more, folks. Don't be polite, don't be respectful. I am not pushing for violence. Honestly, if I were, I'd be doing it. I am not pushing for that, but I'm saying this is the start of truly being vocal and not being afraid. Here are some of the issues I've got with the issue. Jane Philpott goes into hiding. When the girls come to bring her the letters after her photo op at the conference, never to be seen again, except to teach you in a video how to wash your hands. Now that does me a lot of good. I don't know how the rest of you feel. All of the Liberals circled the wagons. It was nice to see one of them come out of the break, but most of them circled the wagons. Didn't you find it odd that Dr. Gregory Taylor takes early retirement after 2 years heading up PHAC, and in 2 years into his 5-year contract, right after the conference where he told everybody he was concerned about Lyme? Don't you find that odd? And guess who went in? Dr. Tam, AMMI extraordinaire. An FOI showed in Manitoba in 1999 there were 495 cases of confirmed Lyme on the government books. In 2001, they disappeared. The information was available. The information was in the issue. The people who took them off the books was the issue. So here we go. Dr. Leitner said, the future of medicines is ours to shape by the choices we make. And one of those choices, and I'm telling you this, folks, is not to allow yourselves to be dismissed, be afraid. What's that name calling gonna do? What do you care? Why would that matter? You're in a lot of trouble with your health to worry about somebody calling you a name. And when you reach the point of you got nothing to lose, you got everything to fight for, and I'm there. One of the key things I want to ask is when doctors, research, and politicians start acting like businessmen, who then do we turn to for our medical care? And if you don't think this isn't about the money, think again. You can have all the science in the world. The key is finding out where the money's going, and that's my job. Patients have the power, never forget that. We live in a democracy, which means we are free to be empowered, to use whatever skills and experiences we have. We don't have to agree on everything. We just have to agree on the final goal. How we get there, let it fall where it's may. Patients have to be militant, proactive, and resolute. So there you have it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I'm going to tell you, and this is with massive apologies to Jennifer Hudson and the movie Dreamgirls, I rewrote some of the lyrics for the people at AMMI, Jane Philpott and her ministry, PHAC, and the Canadian Medical Association. I unfortunately can't sing it, but I can certainly speak it. So I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the puppet masters, I know. So there's no way I can go. No, 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 no way I'm going to leave you. I'm sticking like glue because I want to be Lyme-free. I'm staying, and you are going to respect me. Meet with me, stay, talk with me. I'm asking you still. I know you don't care, but I guarantee you will. You know I am right to keep up the fight. I'm staying on that you can trust me. So, circle your wagons, hide, cower, and float. You can do what what you want, but I ain't moving out. Cancel all meetings, push back and hide. There's no way I'm leaving because I'm in for the ride. And I can tell you I'm not going. I want to be Lyme free. And you, AMMI, you PHAC, you federal government, you CMA, you the doctors, you provincial ministers, you're going to hear me. You're going to see me. You're going to help me. Oh, yes, you will. You will learn never again to dismiss me. We have the power. Stay strong, resolute, ignore the name calling. Don't believe in anything you're told. Don't be grateful for crumbs. Above all, never give up.
Hi everybody, my name is Mary Chartrand. I wish that I had something formally prepared for you. I'm sure that would be much more professional, but my brain just doesn't work like that anymore. I'm a university educated, former professional, and so believe me, it's not a lack of intelligence. The problem is that I have all of these bastard Lyme spirit things invading my brain and my bones and my organs and my arteries. And so life has changed for us. I am 41 years old. I am a wife of a wonderful man who also has been partially destroyed by Lyme, in that he had to leave his job in order to take care of me because there just simply isn't enough out there to support us, right? And I, at one point, I'm doing kind of better now, but I needed 24-hour-a-day care when I was having several grand mal seizures every day and blah, 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 blah. Anyhow, I've been sick officially for 2.5, coming on 3 years, but probably a lot longer than that. And I'm the mother of 7 kids. I have 7 kids. And the thing is that a lot of us, you know what? A lot of us have grown up and whatever's happened in our past and whatever, maybe we don't think that, you know, especially us young ones, we don't feel like perhaps we're worth the attention that we need from the doctors, the medical system, etc. Okay? So for me, you know, when I've had those messages ingrained in my brain, the problem is that I've got 7 kids who are watching their mom die. Why? It's not okay. If there's one thing that has come to completely piss me off is bureaucracy. Anybody else? Like, the problem is that we have people in power who have no idea what they're talking about, who are making the rules, who are giving us their change of pennies, their worthless coins, to, talk about, ticks and preventing further infections, and has nothing to do with the rest of us who are dying. I was a dancer. I was a singer. I was on the cusp of recording an album. And let me just rhyme off a few things that perhaps you can, relate with. So the first thing that happened was I had what they figured was a stroke. Okay, so I lost the entire use of my left arm, completely paralyzed. Now at the time, I had quit social work I was a psychologist for 10 years and I worked very hard, but once again, bureaucracy and red tape and money and arseholes who don't know what they're talking about drove me to the brink of just saying, enough. I will do it in my volunteer time, but as a paid profession, I decided to change it up and I became a very skilled and very successful hairdresser. My family were all like, what? I was in school for 8 years, right? I'm still paying OSAP loans from that. But anyways, that's okay. So I became a very skilled hairdresser. I loved it. I'm taking care of my kids, la la la. And then I have this stroke and lose the use of my arm. And I can't do that passionate thing that I have anymore that allowed me to express myself and it was very therapeutic for me. And let me tell you, I did more social work in my chair than I ever did on my couch. But anyways, next came my legs, and very quickly my legs started to crumble. And I lost the ability to walk without a lot of supports. And as you can see, my super cool bionic legs here help me to get around, kind of. They're the best I can do. And the only problem is that my legs are not the only thing falling apart, right? My back is falling apart, so I can still only walk so far. So I have my little red wheelchair there, except I got in it today and I think, I'm starting to think it was made for a child because my arse isn't fitting in there so well anymore. Does anybody else have that problem that all of a sudden you're gaining weight? I never eat. I don't have an appetite. We're not allowed to eat anything. If it has gluten or sugar or dairy or anything in it, we're not allowed to eat it. I break all of those rules, I'm going to admit you right now. And people have told me, you know, Mary, if you just stop, because I have a minor addiction to Haagen-Dazs, and I have had people say to me, you know, if you just stop eating ice cream, you'll probably be a lot better. And I try very hard to be polite. How many people are sick of, how about this? How many people are sick of this? So, what's wrong with you? I have Lyme disease. So, like you got bit by a tick? How many times have you been asked that? If I had a quarter for every time I got asked if I got bit by a tick, and never mind, yeah, I'd be rich, right? Never mind stuff like we are about to lose our home because our livelihood has been taken from us and we can't keep up with the taxes and nobody cares. Believe me, I've called everybody, nobody cares. There is no help because if there was, I would have tracked it down by now. I have called everybody. Nobody cares. They pass the buck on to somebody else and that person passes it along until they're just hoping that you just get tired of picking up the phone, you know? Anyways, I was really blessed. And I know, where's my friend that just spoke? The thing is that I do feel blessed every day in a lot of ways, and it's probably how I have survived this long. Now, I spend weeks at a time in bed, so I know you might be looking at me like, she is so cool. Like, she has got it all together. Look at her, all fashionista and stuff. And, just kidding. But the fact of the matter is, my children can attest to you that, you know, I miss most things. And I feel like I have lost the last 3 years of watching my children grow up. And they have lost 3 years of their mommy. And it pisses me off. These kids are my heart, and I beg doctors to help me. And I have had experiences like all of you. I had a grand mal seizure in front of a doctor once. I was dripping in sweat. My clothes were wet through. And the doctor never skipped a beat. Didn't even acknowledge it. Anyways, one thing I want to recommend to you that is somewhat empowering, because sometimes we feel a little powerless, right? And it's starting to get a little tiring because we're already tired. So feeling powerless does not help. So anyways, something that I would highly recommend is to fire your doctors. It is so much fun. It is. I had like 15 doctors or something, 17 I don't know how many. My kids would count and keep track, and I'd have to have a list of which one is who, and I don't know who they are, and they're calling me, and I don't remember the appointment and whatever. But I figured out okay, so I'm going to tell you some personal things. Is there anybody here that just doesn't get it? Like, are there people here, please just be brave. Are there people here that think that this is about, like, you get bit by tick, you get a bullseye rash, and then you feel kind of crappy? Because it's way beyond that, guys. Okay? I can't walk. My bladder and my bowel have both prolapsed. Okay? I'm 41 years old. Okay? So they don't function properly. My kidneys and my heart are at risk. My brain has permanent damage on it. I have a speech impediment that kind of comes and goes. I have, the seizures are under control, praise God. But not until my husband, who has taken care of me every day, has been so traumatized by watching me have these seizures, and my kids standing there as paramedics come in to sweep me out for the umpteenth time, you know? And doctors who look at you like you're a complete crack case when they're asking you, so what's wrong? Why do you take all these medications? I mean, I take more medications in a day. I wish they were M&Ms, really? I take about 65 pills a day, I think. Plus I've got this thing in my chest, you know, a portacaf for my IV treatments. And yes, what day is this day? Saturday. Yesterday was the day before, and I did my 221st IV treatment. And I'm tired of it. There have been days that I have contemplated suicide. That's not me. I love life. I am an artist and a mom and a wife, and I love my house and I love our country, and it's really irritating me how stupid these politicians are acting. Like, it's as clear as the nose on my face. And, you know, this $4 million, are there any politicians here? Are they all hiding? It's Saturday. They are off. Oh, no, they're not working today. They're like, it's Saturday. We will be nowhere in sight. Those lime loonies are coming. But let me tell you, the $4 million